criminal who was involved in this business. He has a better intelligence than we do. Can he point out to among those dead people, can he isolate one person who was a criminal that his security forces were justified to kill? This is not how to run a country. You can't brand citizens criminals and kill them and say you are going to do it at all costs. What makes him think that his life is more precious than that of the fellow on the street? If we have to do anything, we must demand accountability for that blood. We must demand that President Ruto produces the criminals he claimed invaded parliament, if they are not citizens. President Ruto must tell us who are these people in civilian and how come that civilians were mingling with armed police, with uniformed police and shooting people. The time when people said words and they got away with it, I think they are behind us. We are talking about the Gen Z. Not all the Gen Z are educated. Not all the Gen Zs are. There were Gen Zs who came out, who dropped out in class 8, who didn't get an education. And I think about 60%, 70% of the Gen Zs are people who are already dropped through the cracks. And they all came out. People have said that these people are banning schools. I would challenge anybody to tell me where in Kenya was a school banned. No school has ever been banned in Kenya. And I will repeat it, no school has ever been banned in Kenya because what I have seen, because a school is not a dormitory. When these kids were banning dormitories, what statement were they making about this governance of this country? I have never seen a situation whereby kids have burnt books and burnt classrooms. Why is it that all the banning was about dormitories? What statement were they making? Were they crying out for justice? Then you come to say that schools were banning. Not a single school has ever been banned in this country. Or I'm not aware, but what I've seen is that the dormitories have been banned in schools, and I know we have got schools that don't have dormitories, but they are still schools. So why were the kids banning the dormitories? We saw another terrible thing happening the other day on our streets. Doctors sleeping outside in the cold, trying to enforce a CBA. Such an important human resource wasting away when we have in a country where people are dying for lack of medication, for lack of attention. And it cannot be true that there's no money to pay these people. You just need to read the reports of the Auditor General and you'll see that this country is being looted dry. So, these people should be employed. We are a Republic of Kenya, and the name Republic is an ideological statement about this country. We have to be governed as a republic. We must be governed as a republic. We are not a kiosk. We have a constitution that says how power should be acquired in this country. And that power, when we have elections, why do people go to Bomas when the constitution says that elections must terminate at the constituency? The next presidential election must end at the constituency for matters to be proper. There's been a call of other things. I hear, I don't know if the cabinet has been dissolved or stuff like that. That is like putting balm on a wound. What we demand, or what I personally think is ready to happen, is that the entire Kenya Kwanza administration, led by Mr. Ruto, must vacate power. The call that Ruto must go is not an idle call. It's a call whose time has come. is a call whose time has come. Mr. Ruto told us that criminals were on the streets. He has not produced a single criminal. You cannot be told lies every day.
Senator Omtata.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Just have your seat. I made myself very clear on how we are going to conduct ourselves during debate on this motion. Inasmuch as we suspended points of order, I said let us be responsible in the way we debate and let us be factual. You cannot call the president Mr. Ruto. This is not a Kamkunji. This is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Proceed.
Okay, I can call him Dr. Ruto. And,
Senator
President Ruto. I'm finishing. Dr. Ruto, His Excellency the President.
Proceed.
But he never ceased being a minister, so all those titles are apply to him, if my English is correct. So I'm demanding that President Ruto vacates office as the only honorable thing to do. He's unable to balance a budget. It has collapsed. Everything around him is collapsing. So you cannot say that his juniors should bear the burden. The ball stops with him, and the call that President Ruto must go is a call that must be applied. And as they say, a fish begins rotting with the head. So, and among my people they say, a river does not flow higher than its source. And when you look at the sun, you must blink. Justice is crying out. Our children have died, something that has never happened in this country. The president has called them criminals. And the president cannot continue sitting in power when the children have died. And he said you do anything at whatever cost. When the Constitution says you can't do anything at whatever cost. So my call is to associate my voice with those who are saying that the president vacates office. There's no room for all these things we are doing here, and we start off with a new slate. Mr. Speaker, sir, anything less than that will not avenge the blood that has been spilled on our streets. A street that is hallowed, a street that is recognized in the Constitution as an arena for engaging politically. As the arena whereby, when this institution fails, the people of Kenya invoke Article 1 and go to engage. When you desecrate such a venue, you don't do anything. There's not even a call that these things should be investigated. Instead, they're trying to say that we go and have dialogue to assage, to see, I don't know how to distort what is happening, to do whatever, to see how. I just look at these people like prison guards who are fighting for who becomes the chief warden. Then they learn that there's a prison break. So they all forget about what they were fighting for. They say the first thing we must do is to ensure that this prison is not destroyed. Because their business is the prison. Their business is to keep the people in the prison. So they are now coalescing, forgetting about the fight they were having, who becomes the chief warden. Now they are saying the prison must be kept intact. We are not going to allow that. This country has moved. The government that has to govern this country must govern by law. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, I reiterate my words, that if really the president values this country, he should do the honorable thing, fall on his sword. President Ruto, fall on your sword and retain, if you have to retain in order. And retain in.
Well, 1 minute, you wind up your thoughts, Senator Omtata. Just 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Thank you. What I was saying is that, like in the old days of the Roman soldiers, when they felt that they had brought dishonor to the country, and they were even, the dishonor was so bad that they could not even let another person kill them, they fell on their swords and died. That's the only way they regained their honor. And the only way Ruto can regain an honor is for him to fall on his sword and let the Kenya Kwanza administration die, so that Kenya can have a new beginning. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you.
At that juncture, we will defer that motion and proceed to the next order. Clerk, kindly call the next order.
Order number 9, motion, approval of sittings of the Senate to be held in Busia County.